Thank you, and welcome. Well, it's good to see you all on this Sunday here in Swansea, and second day of our conference. And I wanted to start, well, I was going to sort of echo what Jonathan did in Newport, at the Newport conference. When I say echo, I mean I'm going to steal a bit of his speech. And I'd start by thanking some people. First, I wanted to thank Mirka for stepping in when we needed a leader, when Grenville left us, and doing a really good job, and for her year that she's just done as deputy. She's helped me a great deal in that she did a lot of work in building strong links with the National Party and the organisations and boards in that. So I just wanted to record my thanks for that, and also to Duncan, our other deputy, for everything he's done. And indeed, all our officers and members of Wales Green Party Council. It's been a real pleasure working with you all, and I think for a group of volunteers we've achieved a great deal within the year and in recent years. I also want to mention Emily Durrant, our councillor in Powys, and congratulate her on getting a divestment motion through Powys Council. Back 2 or 3 weeks ago, she proposed it and got it through, passed by the council. It shows the power of what one Green in the room can do, which is why it is so urgent that we get more Greens elected at every level. And also, not to mention our town and community councillors, Alex and Yolo, and all the work they're doing in their community. It makes a difference. And as I said, that's why we've got to keep on pushing and getting more people elected. And then, just really to thank everyone for everything that we all do. So often people come up to me and they're apologetic and say, I really wish I could do more. And I have to reassure people, everything you do, whether it's attending a meeting, organising a meeting, going to a rally, leafleting, creating and sharing social media contact, it all adds up, and we need to remember that we're all volunteers, so no one should ever beat themselves up. It all makes a difference, and it's all worthwhile. Now, we're obviously going to talk about elections, which has been thrust upon us. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the year first and just talk a little bit about the European elections. Now, as the Green Party, we went into the European elections with 3 MPs, and the very real possibility that we were going to come out of it with 2. We really thought we were going to lose one. And as you all know, we came out of it with 7. It was a sign of the growing interest in the Green vote, the growing Green vote, the Green wave going across Europe, and also a sign that when people know their vote matters, they give it to us. So for me, it was a really great start to the year, working with some brilliant candidates, and seeing just how effective the Green Party machine can be as well, and being made to feel very welcome and part of that team. And here in Wales, we didn't get an MEP, but we'd had some really good results. There was 9.3% in Monmouth, 8.2% in the Vale, 8% across Cardiff, and really good results across the country, which is a real good building block for our assembly elections, which is what we really should be focusing on, which is why it's so frustrating that we now have a general election in 4.5, 5 weeks. And I want to echo what Caroline said the day the election was announced. This election will not fix Brexit. This election has to be the climate election. We have 10 years or less to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. We're possibly electing a government that could be in power for the next 5 years, half of that time. So climate change has to be at the front of everything we do in this campaign. I think Jonathan said it on Channel 4 last night, everything in this election has to be looked at through the lens of climate change. And that's where we're strong. We've got a history of this. This is what people identify us with. And it's been a great year with the school strikes, the Extinction Rebellion, the growing interest, the growing awareness, people on the streets. That all feeds into our strengths. And we're seeing increasingly green noises from the Labour Party, which we welcome. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being cynical, we welcome it. But they've been quiet on this in the past before. And that suggests to me that their polling, because they have these incredible polling machines, their polling is telling them that this is what people want to hear about. And that's good if that pushes them in the right direction. We're just pushing that a little bit further. We welcome them. It's that thing that we propose something, everyone says it's idiotic, it's nonsense. 4 years later, it's their policy. And you've even got Boris getting onto the bandwagon. The very, very welcome banning of fracking in England following the lead in Wales. Now, there's some caveats. It could be brought back. After all, it's Boris Johnson. And to paraphrase, I can't remember who it was, but we don't believe what you say because we see what you do. And I think we always have to remember that with the Conservatives. So we're going into this election on a really strong base. Even though it's going to be a very divisive election, the media are going to want Brexit to dominate this. But we're going in with really strong, radical green policies that are going to chime with the electorate. Labour talk about Green New Deal, we go one step further and we talk about a whole green new economy. Practical measures that will transform people's lives. Supplying affordable, sustainable homes, homes that generate their own energy, lifting people out of fuel poverty. This can be done, we've seen it, outside Bridgend, Salsa House, built years ago now, built for the budget of social housing, generates more power than it uses in a year. These things can be done and green policies will deliver them. Then we've got our support for community energy projects. So many are frustrated. We've got one in Cardiff that's frustratingly coming up against council bureaucracy, government bureaucracy. We need to be pushing and encouraging those community projects. And also our support for bigger infrastructure, renewable infrastructure. We have been behind the Swansea tidal goods since day one, and they appreciate our support and acknowledge it. And then for our communities, the valleys, our post-industrial communities, communities that have been ravaged by an unjust transition, we need to tackle their concerns as well. We can do things like, as I said, lifting people out of fuel poverty, affordable housing, affordable, reliable, sustainable public transport network across Wales. I would go as far as to say free public transport, but that's not Green Party policy yet, so don't quote me on that. So we have all these radical policies, and it's not just these things that we do. We are steadfast in our commitment, our opposition to airport expansion, for instance. And we live in a nation that's proud, quite rightly so, proud of being the first country to declare a climate emergency. But we then see government ministers bragging about increased flights from Cardiff Airport, pushing for Cardiff Airport to be expanded, pushing for applying for licences for flights from Cardiff to Manchester, Cardiff to London. At a time of climate emergency, that is not acceptable. It is a betrayal of future generations. And we will always stand clear on these issues. As with road building projects, unnecessary new road building projects causing intense environmental damage. And it was very welcome earlier this year to see the M4 road abandoned. Thanks, in some ways, to the Future Generations Commissioner, but largely, I think, due to the work of the campaigners, both Green Party and committed environmentalists, who have fought this for years. It was a sign that we can win, and we are winning, and we will win more. We also need these drastic changes that we are so aware of. To get these drastic changes, we need a strong and healthy democracy. That is why we support the devolution of power to the lowest possible level at any stage. As we've said before, we support independence for Wales if that is what the people of Wales want and if that is what is asked for in a referendum. But we go further than that. We want power devolved to a council level. We want communities to be in charge of the decisions that affect their lives. We also very much welcome the introduction of votes at 16 for the next National Assembly for Wales election, something that we have been campaigning for a very long time. And something we need to remember as we're out there campaigning in the next month is that people who are 14 years old now will have a vote in that election. So once we get this election out of the way, we need to start working with schools and youth organisations. While this is welcome, we need to see this extension of the franchise across every election. Young people have an absolute right to have a say in these decisions that will affect them far more than us in the challenging future ahead. As well as a strong, healthy democracy, these changes require real cooperation, which is why we have been a Remain party from the very start. We need to be part of that European family, working together for better environmental standards, better worker protection. There are things that we need to transform within the EU, but we cannot do that from the outside. Day after the referendum, Caroline was calling for a people's vote. We would still campaign for a people's vote. We would still prefer a people's vote before this election, so this election could be about the issues that affect our lives. So that's why we need to get out there and tell people to vote Green. A Green vote will count in this election. And a Green vote is a vote against climate chaos, for a just society, and a final say with the people's vote. Thank you.